Hello and welcome to Aftersound Review, and this is my review for the TRN MT1, and it actually has been quite in the hype train for some times because how cheap they are and how good they are. So let's just talk about them from the build, fit, frequency response, sound, and comparison. Right from the build itself, there's nothing special here, it's just all plastic, but it looks quite good. Actually, thanks to its color and also its transparency, it just looks fresh from my ears. Nevertheless, it's still plastic. And this is the nozzle. And from what I heard, there's actually two batches of this. I think mine is the first batch because it has this typo around this area. It stays dynamic instead of dynamic. The second batch is dynamic, and it says that the second batch has different nozzle, but nevertheless I have never tried them, so this is my review for this batch, of course. And the cable itself is using 0.75 millimeters, and it's QDC Type C, like the KZ or CCA. And the cable itself, it's just like the usual KZ or CCA cable. There's nothing special there. And when it comes to fitting, again, if you are already accustomed to fit like the Qkz Vk4 or the KX Edx and such, it's just the same. There's nothing special around that area. Okay, let's just talk about the frequency response. Okay, so the frequency response of this TRN MT1, it is simply V-shaped-ish, but the main emphasis is mainly on the bass area, and after that the upper mid-range area, and after that this is the coupler resonance. After that I feel that's a roll-off in the treble area. So yeah, it is somehow V-shaped-ish, but the main point is the bass and also the upper mid-range. And this is how is it compared to the KX Edx. You can see that the contrast between the bass and also the treble is more on the KX Edx. Thus, for me, the Edx sounds more V-shaped, but the upper mid-range is not as shouty as the TRN MT1, but the treble area is more peaky, and the bass is also more contrast compared to the treble. So yeah, Edx is simply more V-shaped compared to the TRN MT1. And this is how is it compared to the Qkz Vk4. And for me, this Qkz Vk4 is one of the most balanced in its price point. But again, I have been seen there are some reports that it's having QC issues and having a different frequency response. But nevertheless, this is my Qkz Vk4, and it measured, and it sounds more balanced for my ears. Although, even though it's not as bassy, it's not as wow as the TRN MT1. So this is my source for hearing this MT1, the Qkz 5K, i5 XDSD, and also iBasso DX160, and also my phone Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus. And for me, this IM is easy to drive. So if you're even using only your phone, it's easy to drive them. And for me, the main selling point of this IM is their bass and also the quite good soundstage at this price. Really, the bass, at this price point, usually there's a lot of bass and bass IMs, but this is the first time I think I found a really good quality bass at this price point. The bass could really go deep and also not really bloated. Usually the IMs that is using a bass gimmick at this price point is a bloated, slow and bleeding bass, but not with this TRN MT1. This TRN MT1 has authoritatively deep and big bass, but never goes too much that it bleeds to the mid-range. No, it's just a good quality bass. At this price point, maybe it's one of the best, if not, it's the best. And then the mid-range, I got quite a mixed feeling around this price, because again, we're talking about a very cheap price. For me, for my own preference, it's still way too V-shaped. The upper mid-range is way too forward, just like the frequency response. It's too peaky at times. For example, for some Ed Sheeran songs or maybe Ariana Grande's vocals, it could get too peaky and harsh at times. But the good side is I almost don't hear any sibilance from them. It's just shouty and peaky, but no sibilances. maybe that's quite a good area because we're talking about this price. And the treble, although it's quite energetic around the lower treble area, so maybe you hear a lot of cymbal crash energy, but you can't hear the extension of the treble, especially if we're talking about instruments such as violin. It can't go really high around that area. And when it comes to technicalities, I should say that they have quite good depth. Not really wide, but the depth is making them quite 3D-ish with some with some live music. So yeah, they're quite good in that department, but it doesn't really go exceed their price point. So I'm not saying that they are giant killer or whatsoever. For me, they are just good in its price point. And how are they compared to some of the very well-known IMs such as the KX Edx or the Qkz Vk4? For me, the Qkz Vk4 is still the most balanced here. Yeah, again, see at the frequency response, it proves what I mean. It's less peaky than the others, and it's also more neutral-ish. No, it has less peak than the others. But lately, I have been heard a lot of QC issues around this Qkz Vk4, and therefore maybe if you're buying them, just expect that you're buying lottery. If you get the good batch, maybe it's really good. If you get the bad one, yeah, it's just the risk. While this MT1 and this EDX is more consistent for me. So let's talk about them. The EDX is more V-shaped. The treble is more peaky and harsh and grainy at times, and the MT1 is actually more shouty somehow. So there are some vocals that are sibilants in this EDX, then there are vocals that shouty and peaky, and this MT1, it depends on the frequency response of the song itself. But for me, I still pick the MT1 better than the EDX because I still can tolerate MT1, but sometimes I cannot tolerate the EDX. But nevertheless, for me, they are two quite good. But if I have to choose one, I still would pick this MT1 thanks to its better deep bass and also less sibilance from them, better than this EDX. Okay, yes, I think this is quite a home run from the TRN MT1 because at this price point, I think you can't really go wrong with them because they are really cheap and they sound quite good, energetic, and not really sibilance, where the other IMs at this price point could get really bloated and also really sibilant, but not this TRN MT1. Okay, I think good job TRN. I think so that's all for this review. I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you have any question, please write down in the comment below, and see you next time. Bye bye!